We have a presentation from Vanessa Vancour on digital marketing. Vanessa is the strategist and founder of Van Courage, which I think is a very clever name, a bilingual storytelling and strategic consulting firm for brands, organizations, and people who are deeply committed to amplifying diverse voices and doing things differently. Vanessa is a born storyteller, bilingual editorial consultant, and Latinx marketer who's committed her 16+ years career to bringing diverse narratives and meaningful conversations to every newsroom, classroom, and ad agency boardroom she's been a part of. Please welcome Vanessa.
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm so bummed I'm not there to try those cookies. I am also gluten-free, so I'm intrigued and would love to try them. So nice to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm here today to talk about digital marketing and why it's important for small businesses, which I'm sure you all know. I've spent my entire career, as you heard just briefly, in storytelling. I was a journalist for many years. Then I worked at a digital agency managing accounts for a number of clients. And now I get to do that with clients one-on-one. So digital marketing, I often hear when I talk to small businesses, is the one thing that we tend to leave to the end. Obviously, you're so focused on building the business that when I consult with small businesses, they give me a number of reasons why they haven't been able to invest in digital strategy. It's an issue of perhaps a lack of expertise and knowledge, lack of time. It's very time consuming to manage this. And of course, funding. Usually teams are really scrappy and don't have capacity to invest in a consultant or a team member to do it full time. What I also see a lot of small businesses do, and actually of all sizes, is there's this desire to want to jump ahead to the fun part, to start creating content and thinking about all the fun things they can do, and overlooking the important but sometimes boring and tedious work that has to happen on the front end, which is developing a strategy and unearthing your story and understanding what story it is that you're telling. And so that's the work that I do with folks, is helping people get clear on their stories so that you can design a strategy and then put that energy into your social media or your digital marketing. Digital marketing, as you likely know, encompasses a number of areas. We often tend to think of digital strategy as social media only. And within social media, obviously, there are a number of different platforms and new ones that are emerging all of the time. But digital marketing also includes search engine optimization, which is should be a big part of your website strategy. Blogs within the strategy, which impact SEO. Digital marketing may also be a newsletter, email marketing, and it also can encompass paid advertising. So there's this balance of organic outreach with paid that complements all of it. So I think just important to note that really it's referring to marketing efforts that are happening in a digital space. And within that, obviously, there is content production. So deciding if you're creating videos or photos or graphics and what platforms they live on. But just want to make sure we're all on the same page that when we talk about digital marketing, it can be a number of areas that fall underneath that sort of umbrella statement or area. Some areas that we overlook too sometimes for digital marketing include geographic placement. So if you have a brick and mortar or place where customers or clients can find you, Google business profiles are really important. This is a really key way to improve your SEO, is making sure that you have a physical presence. It's easy for people to find you via the top search engine, which is Google. So research shows that if you have an up-to-date Google business profile, you are 70% more likely to attract folks to that location. I know that when I travel and I'm looking for places, especially places that might be gluten-free, the first search place I look to is Google, and then secondary might be Yelp, which also acts as a search engine specific to obviously food and drink. YouTube, video production is really, really time consuming. If you have capacity or interest or someone who likes it, it's definitely worthwhile because it's such a nice way to showcase your space visually and your personality, if that's something that you feel comfortable doing. And YouTube is not just a video platform, but it is also one of the largest search engines. Especially with younger demographics, there's research emerging that is showing that the younger demographics, we're talking teenagers into early 20s, are turning to YouTube and TikTok as their search engines over places like Google. So this is where folks are going to find information, may eventually lead to a visit or a product purchase, but this is also a space where you can establish yourself as an expert or a leader. Perhaps you're providing a service or you're explaining something to folks. YouTube's huge for that. And also, as it relates to search engine optimization, I see this with folks who are producing podcasts, making sure that they're uploading their content to YouTube as well, because Google owns YouTube. And so if you have YouTube placement, it also helps your search engine optimization. You're probably most familiar with some of the other platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And I think, you know, a lot of folks think that they have to be in all places all the time, which is a lot of work and also not strategically viable or a good way to go, right? We want to focus on the platforms where our audiences are. So understanding that the Facebook demographic is far different than the Instagram demographic and way different than TikTok. And I'm hearing a lot from the younger generations that Facebook is just becoming increasingly irrelevant, but it's irrelevant to the younger demographic. So just want to reiterate that it's not about being in all places to all people, but it's really understanding where our audience is, where they're finding information, how they're finding information, and its relevance to the service or product that you're offering. Again, my work is on the front end of really helping understand and help folks tell the story of who they are. Because before you can jump into content creation, you have to be really clear on who you are as a business. Do you have a clear mission? Do you have a clear vision? You want to make it as easy as possible for someone else to explain who you are, what you do, how you do it differently, and who it is for. So this work is really deep work that's really hard for folks to do, and so hard that I actually hired folks to help me do this, because although I help other companies with their storytelling, I have a hard time telling my own story. I have a hard time promoting myself. So I hired a couple of really brilliant women to do my copywriting for my website and to develop a brand guideline, which includes my logo, my color palette, and my mission and vision statements, which I'll share with you in just a moment. There are lots of really great tools online that help guide you through these mission, vision, value exercises so you can create your own statements, which I highly recommend, because this can act as a guiding light for all of, and it should act in that way for all of the content you're producing. But mission statement is that action-based statement, right, of how you're serving your customers. And your vision is, in doing the work that you're doing, here's the future that you envision for folks, right? The purpose is, why do you exist? Why now? Why you? And the part that I think makes some people feel a little uneasy, or that might feel like it's pushing a bit outside of the comfort zone, is only speaking to the folks that you really want to attract. This comes back to this idea of, really, most of us are not for all people. And I think the more clear and explicit we can be on who we are for, then those are the folks that we are going to attract, right? And there are lots of really great mission statements. You can look online as well to get a sense of, like, Ben & Jerry's mission statement is to create the best ice cream ever. Amazon, for example, is to be the Earth's most customer-centric company. Lots of great tools online that you can resource. Happy to share some of my favorite after as well. So I went through several months exercise of refining my mission statement, my vision, and getting very clear on who I would like to work with and what kind of clients I would like to attract. So our mission at Vancourage is to share stories founded on integrity and empathy to create equitable change. Obviously, there's a lot more within that, but you want to make your mission as clear as possible. And more than anything, clearly communicate your value proposition, right? What are your values? Because although we as humans like to believe that we make decisions based on information, we do obviously consider information and facts. We are also emotional beings, and we make decisions based on how we feel, how relatable we might find someone, and we ultimately do business with people we like, right? We may like the product, but if you're able to create that personal connection, it deepens the relationship and the loyalty, which I'm sure all of you in business have experienced, and those are the strongest connections. Those are those repeat customers. Those are the people who are going to stick with you through the long haul and then tell their friends about it, which is really what social media is. This is the vision for my company, is that I hope to see more diverse stories and perspectives at the forefront, tightly woven into the fabric of our community. That's what I work towards in the types of projects that I take on and the folks with whom I want to collaborate. And then I have a very clear section on who I welcome. This is meant to be so clear, I hope, that if there are folks reading this who see themselves in one of these areas, they say, yes, that's me. This is the gal I want to work with. Similarly, the intention behind being this clear and explicit is if someone sees this and says, this isn't me, not my gal, great. You, again, not only want to make it easy for folks to clearly tell the story of who you are, but understand immediately if they're a right fit or not. I know this is a presentation on digital strategy, and I have some tips on some of the mistakes I see that folks make, but I just really want to drive home the point that before we can even get to the content creation, the strategic piece is really critical, and getting that clarity on our stories as businesses and what we do and how we do it differently and for whom. Part of, you've gone through this experience, let's say, of getting clear on your mission and your vision and your values, and you feel like you have a better sense of the story you're telling about your product, the service, the problem you're solving. It's understanding your audience, right? There are lots of data points available online. This is one of the great benefits of digital media, is the access we have to data about people and demographics and personas, so that we are not guessing as much as we used to be. You can have a better sense of, oh, I'm targeting folks who are within this age range, who live in this geographic region, who might have these specific dietary restrictions, who need these services because I'm solving this problem. So once you get through that, it's understanding, well, where do these folks live on the digital space, right? Where do they find information? Understanding the demographics of each platform will help inform where to focus your energy, right? Are they TikTok users? Are they on Instagram? Maybe they're still on Facebook. And so it's understanding their behaviors. This is part of the competitive analysis, which we all do as business owners. Who else is doing work similar to me? And how can I set myself apart? And also learn some of what the folks are doing who are following them or commenting or sharing. And so digital marketing, as much as it is understanding our audiences, it's also understanding that we're not always talking at them, that it's a tool to build community and to build relationships, and also to use it as a listening tool to understand the needs folks have, and how best to reach them, and to not constantly be marketing at them, but also providing value and expertise, which builds loyalty and hopefully eventually a conversion. And I think one of my things that I find myself bringing up a lot is related to the feedback loop, which is ensuring that it's a two-way communication, that you're open to getting critical feedback, and have a way for folks to easily get in touch with you, whether it's via the Google map that I mentioned earlier, or that you've clearly made available your email, your phone number, the best way to reach you, and that you're responsive. Lots of benefits to digital marketing, which again, I'm sure you're very aware of, but these were some of the top for me. Because of the data that is available through the various social media platforms specifically, it enables you to target folks who might be most interested in what you're doing, especially through paid advertising. So you likely know you can target based on geographic area, age, gender, interests, so that you're not just kind of throwing it out to everyone, but you're really targeting the folks you want to talk to. It used to be that we had to depend more on traditional media. We're talking print, radio, TV, to let people know about us, but not so much anymore, because with social media, you see this all the time, right? Businesses who are getting really creative with their storytelling, especially via videos, where they can showcase their personality, and then it might get the attention of a media outlet. And certainly media coverage amplifies the work that you're doing. But I think just reminding ourselves that social media and digital platforms give us some of that power back too, where we don't have to depend on media coverage for that to happen. Data is a big part. I've talked about that a bit. You can start tracking through the data if what is resonating with your audience, what are they sharing with people, how many times has it been saved, are people having conversations, are they responding to you for more information, and it is much more cost effective than traditional marketing. The cost difference between paying for advertisement or placements, whatever that is, in print, billboards, radio advertising, you can stretch your dollar much further online. Again, granted that you have a clear strategy and objective for what you're doing. The mistake I see a lot is people just sort of throwing money behind content without really thinking about which content merits the investment for paid advertising. These are some of the common mistakes that small businesses tend to make in regards to digital marketing. The superficial metrics is a big one. I think when social media first emerged as a strategic tool for businesses, people were really big on follower count, right? Make sure you follow us and make sure you like our page, which people still do, but those metrics don't matter as much as the interaction and quality of the engagement. And so it's still very true for digital marketing that the quality of the engagement you have with your audience is so much more important than quantity, especially because the algorithms are so hard to figure out and they're constantly changing that it's this constant game we're playing to make sure that we're seen. So there are so many examples of accounts that have large followings, but when you look at the percentage of engagement they're getting, it is so small in comparison. So for example, on Instagram, I am more interested on the back-end metrics. How many DMs are you getting from people who are interested in what you're doing? How many times has your post been sent to someone else via a message? How many people are saving it? Those to me are indications that that content is resonating. It was helpful. It's being shared. That matters more than likes. It takes a little bit more effort to do those actions, and it's a much deeper engagement. So focus on the metrics that matter and don't get so caught up on how many people like the page, because that really doesn't matter as much anymore. Also relying entirely on organic. Unfortunately, the platforms are set up for pay to play. So part of that strategy is first building an organic following, but once you have a sense of what kind of content is resonating more, you don't immediately invest in advertising. You sort of watch to see what's resonating, what's working, then you put some dollars behind it, especially on platforms like Instagram and TikTok. We've already talked about trying to reach everyone, not an effective strategy. Know your audience, be specific. It can feel scary to niche down, but you will be attracting the right people, and just trust that that's the best way to go forward. The story isn't clear. Part of the work that I do is helping people really define, like, you can't be all these three things. What are you really good at? What is your value system you're communicating? And what problem are you solving for people? So don't skip over those steps. That I think it's hard work, it's deep work, It's definitely not as fun as creating the content like video or podcasting, which I have a background in, but it's so, so important because it acts as that guide for what's to come, how you intend to measure it, and how to be the most effective. There's a lot to try to cover in digital marketing for small businesses in a short amount of time, but I wanted to make sure that for me, we have time for questions to talk about what questions to ask, because I know most people then the next step is to either try to do it yourself or try to hire someone or find someone who's trustworthy, who's going to be worth the investment, right? What do you get at the end of it? And I think the strategy is meant to do that for you. It is to help you think through not just your story, who you're reaching and how, but what will make this worthwhile? How will I measure the success of this effort? And at the end of the day, I think the hardest thing for social media managers to answer is, what is the return on this investment? And depending on the service or the product or the thing that you're offering, that answer will vary. So I hope part of this was helpful. I'm happy to take any questions. And again, just very grateful to have been invited to be with you today. So thank you.